We have a great lineup of speakers here today. The first one is Ivy Garcia, and she's the co-founder of Brandfoot Consulting. At Brandfoot, they help companies cultivate vital brand stories based on human-centric insights and the principles of service design. Ivy is an award-winning content strategist with a portfolio of engagements that include Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, HBO, Newell Rubbermaid, Procter & Gamble, and AMC. I'm going to turn the controls over to Ivy now, and she will get started.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Hanel. So today we're going to be talking about rethinking the customer journey. Big topic in our industry, and I think it has been for a while. As Hanel said, I'm a content marketer, content strategist, writer at heart. So I really feel pretty passionately about this subject. What is on the screen now is what we've kind of grew up with in marketing, right? The traditional funnel. And that was when, a long time ago, people had lots and lots of options. And at the top of the funnel, the widest part, they had a lot of brand choices. And so they would enter that consideration set, and then marketing would happen. And as they worked through the funnel, they would methodically narrow down those choices to make a purchase. We didn't talk much about loyalty back then. It was kind of just assumed that once the purchase was made, the conversion happened, and that it kept happening. There was a sense of loyalty. Things changed pretty dramatically in the last 15 years. And in 2009, McKinsey really evolved that model with what they called the loyalty loop. So this is really where we're starting to look at the funnel process, the decision-making process as a nonlinear one. And so in the active evaluation stage, it's really where we're gathering information. And this is where the internet happened, and choice really exploded. And so you'll see in a lot of categories during this time, and even now, of course, especially verticals like auto and home buying and beauty, that a lot of people are making 90% of their research decisions before they actually even engage with the brand. So it's not the brand or the marketer telling you about their product. You're hearing it in lots of different ways in lots of different places. And so what McKinsey did in 2009, which is really important here, is the addition of the loyalty loop. Really, it's about how to engage your customer once they have made the purchase, and not assume that you're locked in for life, if you will, right? You have to keep engaging them and keep showing up. And so that's really where we are now, except that that's gotten even more complicated. So the decisions that we are asking ourselves, the questions that we are asking ourselves, the decisions that we have to make whenever we look at a consumer decision funnel is still the same. That hasn't changed, right? As marketers, we're trying to figure out, what am I trying to achieve? What are my goals? Who am I speaking with? Who am I speaking to? That's where our persona development comes in. How do I reach them? Where do I reach them? Obviously, this is more complicated because there are more options. What do I want them to do, right? What's the behavior that I want to elicit? How do I get them to do it? And how do I measure success? So none of that has changed. The problem here, and this is a very nuanced problem, I think, is that we're not asking a very particular thing. And that is, how do I fit into their story? So as marketers, I think one of the things that sometimes trips us up is that we are coming at this relationship, this journey, with our ego in mind, right? So it's our product, it's what we need to do, it's what we need to sell, it's who we need to reach. But we actually really need to flip that and think about the consumer in a new way, right? So how do I provide value? How do I fit into their story? Everyone has a story. It's why I drive a BMW instead of a Subaru. It's why I used to drive a Subaru. It's why I shop at Anthropologie. You know, it's 1,000 different decisions every day because it fits into the story of who I think that I am. And if you, for certain products, especially, and I'll stick with the home buying space because that's actually an example we're going to look at, you are looking at a market of anyone who potentially can buy a house, right? So you're looking at 22 to 72, let's say. There isn't just one story. And for a product like that or a vertical, the story changes all the time. So you have a ton of different consumers that you're trying to reach. And because it's a non-linear journey, you have to, as a marketer, figure out how to reach them in lots of different ways, lots of different times that depend on where they are in their emotional and rational consideration. So when you blow up the funnel and you start to develop these journeys, it can get very complicated. This slide is a little blurry, and that's okay because the point of this slide is really that it's too complicated. It's very beautiful to look at, and this is what's happening a lot, or has happened, I think, in the last couple of years at agencies and in marketing, is as we respect how complicated coming up with these journeys are, we're complicating the process ourselves by creating assets or documents that, that aren't easily socialized across your marketing teams. So if it's not socialized, you can't activate your strategy really well. So while this document is beautiful, and if you look online for customer journey templates, you're going to see a lot of beautiful stuff. You have to keep it simple. So as the opportunities, I'm sorry, let me step back. As the questions and the journey becomes more sophisticated because of all the channels, all the touch points, all the technology, all the noise, we actually have to simplify our process. So what I would advocate is that you start with story. This is not a beautiful slide. That's a beautiful slide. This is not so beautiful, but what it is the beginning of a process where you are really building out a very nuanced look at your consumers and where they are at every single touch point that they might come in contact with you, right? And the other thing that this slide really shows too is it asks the questions that a lot of marketers, we don't want to ask ourselves. We, you know, the other thing with customer journey mapping is that when we sort of do it through the lens of our brand ego, we only look at the positive questions. We also have to look at the negative ones too, so we can address them, right? It's just like personal relationships. So from a storytelling standpoint, which should take a lot of time, it should have a lot of people throwing a lot of holes at it, and right? Make sure that it really makes sense. Then you can start to build out more thoughtful journeys by channel, right? So instead of the funnel where we're considering just sort of 1 or 2 journeys, or even if we diversify it into 10, we have to make sure that we are staying true to the channel and the platform. And that might call for multiple exercises and multiple maps. And so that's really what this is representative of. And this could take an hour to go through, but the point of this one is that it captures all the rules, it captures the triggers, it captures the journey points, it captures the different audiences, and it captures a decision tree that tells us what they're going to do. And if they do this, yes, then we know this. If they do this, no, that's fine. We've asked the question and we can anticipate that action so we can address it. And then you need to really follow that through with your creative. So this is just simply an expression and a marketing automation email program that we developed for a home buyer and a home buyer client. And this is the outcome of what you just saw. This is an email journey map, and this is the expression of that. And so it's really looking at, you know, how can I talk to different audiences in different ways without reinventing the wheel every time. So this is one template. It captures a lot of decisions that, that we've mapped out, but there's different audiences. So this would be a young married couple with children, and this would be empty nesters. But we've allowed a simplification of the expression of it, the actual creative. the brand message because we know how to populate it on the back end with a really robust content strategy that is true to our customer journey. This is just another expression of that, which would be a conversion point, really, a contact us form that we were able to make even longer and asked more questions because it was authentic to who we were trying to reach. And that's really what I wanted to say, which is, you know, things are complicated out there. People have a lot of choices, and they're in control. So we need to anticipate that and make sure that while our marketing approach gets more sophisticated to match their sophistication, that we keep the process simple. So thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, Ivy.